What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Bronx Attorney Broadcast. I'm your host, Will Ferrero. On today's episode, we have Matt Patterson. Matt is a wholesale insurance broker at CRC Group, and insurance isn't always the most fun thing to, do on the weekend, update your policy, but it's certainly something that you're always going to need, whether it's, homeowners insurance or car insurance, or in the instances that we talk about when you're going to open your own business or open your own law firm. Matt gives us a nice overview of, what you should be on the lookout for when you're seeking that insurance policy. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? How are you? Good to see you.
Tonight? We got
I'm good.
We got a new format we're trying out here. I used to do them on Zoom. Now we're gonna have a nice little background. Maybe make the YouTube videos look a little bit more fancy. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. Happy to be the guinea pig.
So, we were talking a little bit a couple weeks ago about, what you do and, how you could provide some good information to people who are some listeners about the insurance industry. So just to get started, can you just introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about where you're working and what you do there.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Matt Patterson. I'm the Vice President of Professional Management Cyber Liability at the Jenkintown office of CRC Group. CRC is actually, after 2022, we are the nation's largest specialty wholesale broker for commercial insurance in the country. We are now number one, so that's pretty cool. And what we do is we are a wholesale brokerage for commercial insurance mainly. There is people that do personal lines insurance too, but that's much smaller part of what we do. 99% of what we do is commercial insurance. And we work in between insurance agents, customer-facing people, consumer-facing people, such as, your law firm. You go to an insurance agent to find your insurance. Our customer is actually that insurance agent. So when they can't find specific coverages, or maybe they don't have the right appointments or contacts at certain underwriting shops, they will come to somebody like me. I'm basically a gatekeeper to a much broader scope of insurance markets, and they send me the submission. I go out and talk to my underwriters, negotiate a quote for them, and then bring it back to my client and then advise them on the benefits, maybe some exclusions or some issues that might be on the quote, and coach a lot of people on coverages and how to sell some of the policies that we offer.
Okay, so there's a bunch of different types of ways you can work in insurance, right? So you mentioned there's like the broker, or the wholesaler. What are the other? And then there's actually like the insurance like companies themselves that are offering the policies, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is so much to do in insurance. It's a much bigger industry than people really think. A lot of people, they'll just see their State Farm agent, driving around town and kind of think that's, that guy works for State Farm or whatever. And, that's all the insurance commercials on TV are really all that's out there. You could work in many different facets all the way up the chain from an insurance agency and like a captive agent working for State Farm, or you could be an independent agent and work for an independent agency that has specific contracts that they negotiated with other carriers. You could work in many facets in those companies. You could work as a wholesaler like us, and we have different positions that we work into. I mean, we have some people that are actual underwriters that have appointments with certain carriers to underwrite on their behalf. You have obviously carriers with underwriters and marketing people and actuaries and just everybody that's involved in the development of an insurance policy and the rates and controlling a loss ratio and selling that product. But you also have to know that, there's even insurance for insurance companies, which we call reinsurance.
Right.
And they have to abide by those reinsurance treaties that they negotiate on their end. And then there's even reinsurance underwriters. There's reinsurance brokers. There's reinsurance wholesalers. So there's a whole new environment and different landscapes of insurance all over the country. And it's a quite a bit more complex than people might think it is sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of the people that I've been talking with are, either they're a small business owner or there's somebody who has to, within where they're working, they have to build their own book of business. Is that a similar type of situation that you're in?
So me personally, yeah, I'm an independent broker. I've built my own book of business. 100% commission type of position where I go out and I market myself. I market what I can do. People give me opportunities on pieces of business that they're looking to write, and I help them write them. And we basically share in the wealth essentially. But yeah, I market myself with the backing of obviously the largest independent wholesale broker in the country, which helps. Obviously, when you knock on somebody's door, or give them a call, or shoot them an email and say, I work for CRC, it helps with the brand recognition. But realistically, I am my own little business. Essentially, I am the product.
Right.
And yeah.
Okay. And how have you gone about building your book of business?
Well, you just gotta be persistent. I guess the best word would be persistent. That how I went about building a book, because you don't get an opportunity on the first time you talk to everybody. If you talk to one person and they gave you their best piece of business the first time you ever spoke with them, this would be really easy and everybody would be pretty rich, right?
Right.
So it's approaching it with a positive mindset, and just being more and more persistent about it. There's an old sales saying, and not that my position is really sales based. It's really more of an advisory position, to be honest. But it takes 6 to 11 touches on a prospective sale for them to agree to it, right? So I would have to potentially contact somebody 6 to 11 times before they send me one piece of business, which is somewhat accurate. Obviously, a lot of the times when I first started doing it, CRC has agency partners that we partner with, certain agency clusters that we partner with. So you approach those clusters first, and you try and take your easiest shots. And find some of the easier business you can find. And then it's just being persistent and staying on top of it and doing it constantly. What I've learned is when you get lazy on your marketing, your business tends to suffer on the back end. So you could be super busy for 2 months and you're like, oh man, I'm killing it. I'm having a great first quarter. And then, March comes around and the birds are chirping and you're like, oh man, like, how am I going to hit my numbers this month? And that's because you didn't spend enough time in January and February marketing and getting the message out there. So just being persistent, being consistent, and not letting it wear you down. Having that positive attitude.
So when you're marketing, are you more so maintaining relationships, or you're trying to make new sales so that eventually you'll be able to be doing that business in the next quarter, or what?
It's a mix, and it depends on the client. This is something that we're actually trying to, in our office especially, trying to focus a lot more on 2023, is figuring out what our clients need, right? There's some clients that want to see us all the time, and they want to hit the lunches and do the dinners and, grab a drink at a happy hour after work and talk shop and get to know you. And then there's other clients that don't ever want to see you. They'd rather you answer the email they sent you or pick up the phone when they call you right away. Then they don't care about the dinners. They just want to write business. They want to be there for their clients. So it's identifying who needs what, and then spending the time on the clients that need the attention, and like to do that type of stuff, and then also mixing in meetings on the new business side. So it's finding a balance, really, of who needs the attentions and the dinners, who doesn't, and then getting in new opportunities as much as you can, really.
And apparently you're pretty good at that, right? Because didn't you just win an award or something like that? I saw you post something.
So like in our industry, when you hit $1 million in revenue, which I eclipsed in 2022 for the first time, it's kind of a big deal for an individual broker. Which basically means $1 million in revenue typically equates around $10 million in premium. So I
Okay.
wrote about $10 million in premium last year, and I grew my independent book 53%
Wow.
over my previous year's revenue. So they did recognize me. It was a good accomplishment, great accomplishment for my team and myself. So you could say I'm decent at it. I got a lot to learn and a lot to grow,
Yeah,
and
of course.
hopefully in 2023 I can grow it even further and keep attacking the business.
And you have people that are working like for you on your team, or how does like are you hiring people to work for you, or what is that like?
I do. I do. I have two assistants right now. One, she just started in January, so she's fresh out of school and still learning, what a wholesaler does, how we operate. My other assistant's been with me for a little over a year, so he's starting to dig into a little bit more of the account management stuff, really digging into policy forms and how marketing and negotiating a deal goes into play for our job. But yeah, they do assist me. They send out a lot of the quotes. They send out the binders. They, set up renewals. Just a lot of the administrative work that would simply bog me down and
Mm-hmm.
not allow me to be in front of my clients and market their deals and negotiate their deals efficiently. So, CRC does give us the ability to build teams. And, at least our idea in our office is to build the new hires up into potential brokers in
Okay.
however long it takes, right? So we have a long-term focus on building producers, and that's what we like to do. Sure, other offices might have different approaches, but anybody that we hire, we have a long-term goal of hopefully, if they want to, they don't have to, but being a broker themselves.
Got it. This episode of the Bronx Attorney Broadcast was brought to you by me, Will Ferrero. I'm an attorney at Prior Law in the Bronx. We primarily practice personal injury law, but we can help you with just about any legal issue that you may have. And if it's not something that we can personally help you with, we can connect you with an expert in that area of law. You can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. My handle is typically at Bronx Attorney. And if you can't find me on one of those social media pages, you can email me, ferrero@priorlaw.com, or call me at the office, 718-829-0222. And now back to the show. A lot of the people that I've been talking with for the purposes of the podcast, they have either a small business or a small law firm, and, they might just pick up the phone and call the first person that pops up about insurance, and they say, hey, I need insurance for my business, and they just get whatever. So if you want to be a little bit more diligent about, getting the right insurance for your small business or for your law firm, what should people be looking for when they're trying to find insurance?
That's really on a client per client basis. And, insurance is one of those things where it can either be required by a contract or, it's really what you're able and willing to pay for, because you really do get what you pay for in insurance. So, if you were starting a business, I would highly recommend consulting with, an experienced insurance agent to do a risk management review of what you really need. But most people are going to tell you that you obviously need a general liability policy if you have people that are coming into your office, or even employees in your office, or just an office in general. You definitely need general liability and most likely some property coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, again, it depends on what you're doing. Like a law firm, obviously with a law firm, you need errors and omissions coverage.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically a requirement for that type of service if you're rendering a professional service.
Right. And that's like if I commit malpractice and a client sues me saying that I messed up their case, my errors and omissions policy will cover that.
Potentially, yeah. So, there's obviously language within each individual policy form that would respond to an allegation. Now, depending on which policy you buy, there could be different terminology within that policy that, the insured obviously needs to read and understand. So when they are submitting a claim to their carrier, they can be confident whether or not there would be a coverage trigger within the allegation. So, highly recommend reading your insurance policies. And if you don't understand them, I would highly recommend consulting with your your chosen agent to explain it to you
Mm-hmm.
to a point where you understand, because it's very important to understand what you are and what you are not covered for, and what can and could not potentially trigger a policy.
Interesting. So how do you go about reading an insurance policy? Is there anything that recommend people like specifically look for, or that people need to be looking out for?
Well, if you're looking to take a nap, that is definitely one thing to do. No, you can find certain interests in insurance policies for sure. Now, it depends again on what we're looking at. Now, if you wanted to speak specifically to, you know, a law firm and an E&O policy, there is some specific areas where they should pay attention to, and just make sure again they speak with their agent and they understand what their policy is saying, because in the professional E&O realm, a lot of these policies have different wording and terminology, so it can be confusing. It's not your standard general liability policies, which are generally the same. A lot of these E&O policies will vary depending on who the carrier is and what their appetite is and what their intent of coverage is. But one thing that they really should look at and make sure that they fully understand is whether or not the policy is occurrence-based or if it's claims-made based. So
Mm.
those two things are very different, and they're very important for your notice to your carrier for a claim. So if it's an occurrence-based policy, that would mean that the trigger is when the occurrence happened. So if something happened today, you slipped and fell today, right, on a GL policy, and you submit that to an insurance carrier, the policy that was in effect at the time of the occurrence is the one that would potentially pay out that claim.
Okay.
On a claims made policy, the policy that's in effect at the time the claim is made is the policy that would potentially trigger to any allegation made in the lawsuit. So if you rendered a service to one of your clients,
Right.
and 2 years later they say that you caused them a financial loss due to an error in omission in your rendering of a professional service as an attorney, the policy that is in effect at the time the claim is made against you is the policy that would then potentially trigger for the allegation. So that's very important, especially if you do have an E&O policy and it is claims made. You need to keep that policy in effect year over year, because you can't just buy it for 1 year and then expect all your services that you rendered in that year to be covered forever. Because once you let that expire, there's no more coverage unless there's a policy in effect at the time the claim is made.
Right.
So that's extremely important for people to understand. And when they're speaking to their agent and reading their policy, they should really look into that and make sure they are fully in understanding of whether it's an occurrence-based or if it's a claims-made policy.
So if it's like a claims made policy and you retire, you got to keep your policy going, right? So that if somebody makes a claim, you're covered.
No, you don't.
You don't?
There's
Okay.
an option. There's an option in an E&O policy. It's called an extended reporting period. Now, depending on if you were to retire or just non-renew, you wanted to shut down the law firm, we're going out of business. Or maybe you get purchased by a larger firm that then would give you insurance through their policy. You have the option, if you were to non-renew your policy, to extend your reporting period for a certain amount of time. Depending on the policy, some carriers only offer 12 months of extended reporting period. Some carriers, with underwriter approval, will offer up to 6 years. And I've even heard of certain carriers offering unlimited ERPs. I'm not super familiar with that, but I've certainly heard some of my agents say that they were able to acquire them from some of their carriers. But if you were to end an E&O policy at any point in time, non-renew it for whatever reason, I would highly recommend you consider an extended reporting period, just to make sure if a claim were to be made against you after the end of that policy, there's still potential that you would have some coverage, and at least you get it into the carrier and see if there's any option there for you to get some coverage.
Got it. And so your clients are like the insurance brokers, right?
Yeah. So broker is basically a very a term in insurance. Yeah, it's broad. So I'm a broker. All the insurance agents are brokers.
Okay.
Everybody's a broker.
So
So
the more
if
like
you're on like,
consumer facing agents or brokers are the people who become your clients, essentially.
yes, my clients are insurance agents. Yes.
Okay. And so, like, how do you, knowing that, how do you tailor your services to make sure that you're serving your ideal client in the best possible way?
Well, in insurance and what we do, probably the number one most important thing is responsiveness and
Mm.
accuracy. Being responsive for somebody and making sure that their questions get answered in a timely manner is extremely important in anything you do, and especially insurance, because sometimes there can be things that take a long time, and just having that response to say, listen, I've received this, I'm on it, I'm figuring it out for you. And that's really the number one thing that people are looking for a lot of the times, in addition to some expertise in certain areas. um, but responsiveness and just being able to trust your broker or your underwriter or whoever it may be, that they're doing the right thing for you and they're working hard. That's really what people are looking for.
Are there a lot of wholesalers out there? Do you have a lot of competition with, trying to pick up clients?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of competition in the space. I mean, has to be one of the most competitive marketplaces and industries out there. There's 5,100 employees in CRC alone.
Mm.
So there's tons of brokers in CRC. The big top three commercial wholesale brokers really in the United States are CRC, AmWims, and RT Specialty.
Mm.
Those are the biggest ones, and now there's a ton of smaller shops. Under there's big corporations, but yeah, there's tens of thousands of retail agencies out there, and there is just so much competition in insurance, and so much opportunity, really, I should say, because there's just a lot of availability and opportunity, and that's why you got to stay in front and be consistent and persistent with your
Mm.
clients to get opportunities.
So, like, when you say persistent, like, what are you doing to be persistent with trying to get the business?
I guess just like I said before, taking that 6 to 11 opportunities to try and get some business out of somebody before you give up. I mean, again, you never know when somebody has a change in. I'm trying to think of the right word. Not like change of heart, but maybe a redirection in their business strategy on the retail side,
Mm.
to give you an opportunity. So you just your best ability is availability in
Mm.
insurance, to be honest. So being there and available, and just kind of, even if you don't get a lot of business right off the bat, just keeping persistent and not giving up on a prospective client right away is really what I mean. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you're really trying to build a long-term relationship over the course of many years, instead of expecting a lot right away. It's just building that relationship and that trust, and over a very long period of time.
Are most of the policies yearly policies, or do they fluctuate in length?
So yeah, I mean, 99% of the time we're writing an annual policy for 12 months. We can short term certain things or long term certain things if they need to.
Mm.
A lot of the times you'll write something in the middle, in June, when somebody already has all their GL and their workers' comp and their property and their employee benefits. It's all 1/1. So you might extend that long term for an 18-month policy, so it renews on 1/1 with the rest of their
Mm.
deals. It
Got
makes it
it.
easier for budgeting, and just so the insurance agent doesn't have to go back to them and do another presentation in the middle of the year after they did one. At 1/1, just keeping out of the client's hair and just making things easier for everybody. But yeah, 99% of the time it's annualized premiums and
Do
policy.
do the consumer facing agents shop the insurance policies on like a yearly basis?
That's up to them and their marketing strategy.
Mm.
We typically look at the market and what we expect on the wholesale side. Now, can I say, do I know if my clients are shopping my policies every term? I have no idea.
Mm.
I don't lose a lot of them, so even if they are shopping them, it seems
You're
as
doing
though,
pretty well.
right, sure. But that's totally up to them. They have the right and the ability to do that with their direct markets if they so please. But again, that all goes back to the relationship you might have built with them and the trust that they have in you as a broker. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the market too.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know much about, not too much about insurance policies and writing them. I typically get involved when somebody tells me they're not going to give my client the money that we think that they deserve. So, this has been a informative discussion about how how it gets started.
Yeah,
But
it is a for-profit business in the end of the day. So they got to
yeah, it's
preserve
true.
their
Well, you know
money as
what?
well.
If they rolled over all the time, maybe I wouldn't have a job. So,
If they rolled over all the time, there wouldn't be insurance companies out there to pay claims. They'd probably all just close the doors.
That's true too. So you did $1 million in revenue last year. Do you have any goals for this year or the upcoming 5 or 10 years that you're thinking about?
Wow. Just right now, focusing on 2023. Backwards isn't in my DNA, so
Okay.
we're looking to grow. We're looking to attack the market in specific areas that we think we can be of assistance to our clients. Looking to get out back in front of my clients and do the lunch tours and start helping people out again. We do have lofty goals again this year, double-digit growth goals. So, again, we're looking to be aggressive. In 5 years, man, I'm probably going to be a lot grayer for sure.
I don't know if that's a goal though, Matt.
Well, if I'm a lot grayer, that means I wrote a lot of business. So that certainly could be a goal for me. But in 5 years, just still sticking around, still being able to produce that same high quality service to my clients, and still continue to have a good, solid, strong reputation in the industry, and just keep helping people is really what the goal is.
Is there any any secret weapons that you have for making a sale? Is there any special lunch spots or anything like that you whip out when you really got to make the sale?
No, I'm not making the sale, to be totally honest with you. My clients are the ones that are the customer facing individuals, and I just provide the tools and the ammunition for them to assist them in providing the service that they need to provide. But it's not a secret. This industry is not a secret. It's just being consistent in providing a high quality service to your clients, and that's really all you need to do. Now that gets more and more difficult the longer you do this, and the more business you write. It gets more and more difficult the more volume you have. But building a team that has that same similar mindset of providing the absolute best service and response time and accuracy you can is really the best advice I could give anybody. And if that's the secret, then that's the secret. I don't think it's much of a secret, but that's really what the whole goal is in our whole industry.
Yeah. You have any plans on growing your team at all?
Well, that just depends on how big we can build the book. So, as you need additional people, as the book gets bigger, you need some more help. And we look at that as the years go on. So you look back at what you did and what you're projecting for the next year, and you kind of take that one step at a time. We're always looking for new talent in the insurance industry. I would highly recommend any younger people out there that might catch this, that might still be in college, to look into if your school's offering a risk management program, to look into it. It's a lot more interesting than what it seems. It seems dry and dusty and what old people do, but I can tell you right now that the average age for an insurance agent in the country is 65 years old.
No way.
And the average age, it's a very old industry.
Wow.
And the average age for an insurance broker for what I do is 55. So within the next decade, there's going to be a serious turnover in the insurance industry to the younger generation. And we're certainly looking for young, hungry talent that wants to get involved. And there's a lot of really smart kids out there that are spending way too much time on TikTok.
I did take an insurance law class in law school, but those cases were about like the surgeon that had the policy, and then he chops his thumb off on purpose with the hatchet in the at the
Oh,
upstate house.
I think we call that fraud.
It's certainly fraud. Yeah, that's what the case law said. He did not get
Okay,
covered by the
all right.
insurance.
There you go. That's funny. That's funny.
So you got any more nuggets of insurance wisdom before we wrap up today?
Um, Not off the top of my head. I mean, again, the most important thing for somebody in a buying position is to make sure you fully understand the language. These
Mm-hmm.
policies are written by lawyers. So if you're a business owner and you're going to spend a lot of money on insurance policy, it might not even be a bad idea to contact your local attorney to just make sure that you understand what it's saying, because you don't have to be an attorney to sell insurance, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's better to get a second opinion before you purchase something, to again make sure that you're fully aware of what you're buying.
Got it. Yeah, and then for in my opinion, what I think people should do is when they ask their agents to get something, make sure you specifically put in writing what you want. That way, if there's any mistakes, you got your butt covered a little bit.
Yeah, you're gonna find it hard pressed to get a lot of insurance people to put claim scenarios in writing, because every claim is very different, and it's subject to the review of a claims professional at the insurance carrier.
Right.
The best we can do is provide the intent and at least our opinion on what the language intends to mean. So that's about as far as you're going to get an insurance person to tell you.
All right. So do you if an agent's trying to shop some policies and they want to reach out to somebody on the wholesaler side, how do they find you?
Yeah, so if you're an insurance agent and you're looking to do business with CRC Group, specifically me, you can get me at my email. It's just mattpatterson@crcgroup.com. And you can find my LinkedIn too. My name on there is Matthew Patterson. There's probably a lot of them, but I'm in the Philadelphia area, so you can find me that way as well.
Got it. Nice talking to you, buddy. Till next time.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, good
Bye.
luck with everything. Later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bronx Attorney Broadcast. Please like, review, and subscribe so we can help the channel continue to grow. And if you're interested in connecting with any of the guests, please let me know, and I'd be happy to make the introduction.